we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I am not going to be coming up with the steps on how to get this car running and driving. No, sir. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be asking ChatGPT, the AI, what we should do to get this car running and see if it works.
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me.
Hey YouTube! Well, we're off to get another project. Might have something a little bit different in store for this one, so stick with us, see what we end up with. But here's what we're here to get. It's a 1980 Monte Carlo. Good shape. Let's get this loaded up on the trailer. There we go, folks. We got it loaded up. You can see it behind me there. It's on the trailer. It was in the middle, pretty much nowhere. You could see during the drive, it's pretty barren. Dug it out of the mud on the trailer, even in my injured state, without my painkillers. I might add. It kind of sucked, but it is what it is. So let's get it home and see what we can do with it. Now, unfortunately, it is minus a couple things from when I bought it, and that is not the seller's fault. I think someone came out there and maybe grabbed a couple things off of it when no one was looking, which kind of sucks because it did have like a Mack truck bulldog on the hood. That was kind of cool, but not that critical. What I am a little concerned about is the Edelbrock carb that was on it is gone. That sucks. I think I got a Rochester at home that might fit on it. We'll see. But let's get it home, get it cleaned up, see what type of condition it's in. Get air in 3 of the tires, but this one's missing a valve stem, so we're not going to get air in that. However, the good news is I can actually open the door because we've got enough air in this thing to get the doors above the fender wells on the trailer. Couldn't do that before. This makes it much easier. Put it in gear and roll it off. All right, let's get to that.
The only way to straighten out that thing is a pack of matches and a tank of gas. Hey, I think one of your friends are back there, by the way. I want to take a quick look under here. All right. Well, I'm going to say there may have been a few mice. Not many, only a colony or two.
We got it unloaded, and as I said, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be asking ChatGPT, the AI, and see if it works, see if it can figure it out. So let's get into that, see what happens. Well, before we get too far into this though, as you can see, I've got my 2011 Dodge Charger here, and it's missing a few components, and that happened when I went to go look at the Monte Carlo. The car got stuck in some snow, tow truck pulled me out from the back, pulled me backwards, and front end hooked some stuff, ripped the front end off the car. So I'm going to be fixing that. There you can see the front of my car there. Kind of sucked, but it is what it is. These things happen. I will put that in another video, which I'll put in a link down below if you want to see how to fix this. Here we go. You can see I've asked it a very generic question. How can I get the car running that's been sitting in a field for a number of years? So it says it's going to take some effort and stuff, but there's some general steps to follow. And the first one is inspect the car. Before attempting to start the car, inspect it thoroughly. So let's go do that. Let's start by having a walk around. As you can see, it looks fairly straight, fairly rust-free. Now I do happen to know the rear frame rails are rusted on this. I did notice that. We'll look at those later. They're pretty much done, but you can get replacement. This rear tail light is busted out. The rest of it looks pretty good. I see the cats have already found their way on top of it. So it's got a bit of a dent in it, but not too bad. Still not really much in the way of rust on this. Take a look down below. Looking all pretty good still. A little bit of door ding here. Well, let's go see if we get some keys for this thing. Alright, well, the interior is a bit of a mess, but overall, doesn't look too bad. Oh, it's got a smell. It does have, it's got a certain aroma to it. That's maybe we should figure out how to get the windows down. They are power, so we're going to need a battery for that. But there we go. We've got keys. Excellent. Let's go have a look in the trunk. Then we'll come back into the interior. Ooh, that works. Oh, look at that. We got a spare tail light for over here. Very nice. Looks to be in decent shape even. Yeah, it looks complete. Uh-oh, fuel pump. What else we got? We got broken housing. But it kind of, a bit of chip missing out of that one. Oh, well, that we might be able to work with that. There's not much else in here though. Or carpet back a bit. Oh, we got more foam over here. Great. That's always a good sign. And there's a hole. It looks like this hole's been cut though. Like the metal looks to be in good shape, but someone's cut a hole right here. We're gonna have to figure that out. See what's going on there. Get some wiring going on here. But over, this floor looks to be in pretty good shape. Ugh. All right, wait a minute. What do we got over here? We got some spray foam in there. That's never a good sign. And it often collects moisture. Well, but look at this. Holy smokes. We've even got the original jack there and the tire iron. My goodness, what's in this empty fuel pump box? No spare tire. There's our jacking instructions. Oh, look at that. We got our tag, information tag with the VIN. Very good. Okay, let's move into the interior. Or should we go under the hood? Let's go look at the other end, see how it's looking. We're missing the carburetor. That's, and there is some stuff in there. There is a lot of stuff in there. Let's bring you in so you can have a look. Yeah, there's a bunch of junk down there. So I think we're going to get the vacuum. We're going to vacuum that out. That's the first thing we're going to do. Other than that, looks pretty complete under here. This belt's gone for a twist. That's interesting. We'll have to see what's going on there. Don't see any coolant in there. All right, let's get that vacuumed up, get that cleaned up, and then we'll go from there. According to the AI, we were supposed to inspect the car and then clean the car. So we've kind of done some of that. We've cleaned it. I've looked down there with the borescope, make sure there's nothing more in there. You could go one step farther, and the smart step would be take this manifold off, but whoever said I was smart?
It is broken.
So it looks relatively clean. Now we still have the problem of no carburetor, but we'll get to that. The next step, it says, is to change all the fluids. And it's right, it's a good step to do, but I'm going to alter that. We're just going to check the fluids, because if this engine is no good, there's no point wasting the money to put the oil in it. So let's get to checking the fluids and see what type of shape they're in. Well, I found a transmission dipstick here. Oh, that's nice and red. Look at that. That is a healthy color on that. That's what it's supposed to look like. Very nice. Doesn't even smell that bad. Now this is a 1980 Monte Carlo, like I said. So it's got the turbo 350 in it for a transmission. The turbo hydromatic 350, that is. It doesn't have the overdrive. So it's a pretty reliable transmission. They used them for a long time. Now let's go see if we can find the oil dipstick tube on this thing, because that's going to be the real story. We'll see how full that says or how milky looking it is. So where is that? Here's the oil dipstick. Let's pull that out, see what we got. What is this? Seal for the top of the carburetor. How full is it? Huh. Well, the good news is the oil looks relatively good. There's only part of a dipstick on it. It's broken. This thing back in there. Come on now. Don't be like that. That's your home. Still no. Well, I ain't never had that much trouble getting dipstick back in. Well, we're going to pause the camera. This could take a while. Okay, so after wrestling with that dipstick for some time, I finally got back in, checked it again, and the oil level is definitely overfilled, which means we could certainly have some water mixed in there with that oil. Or at that point, it would be a good idea to change it, but before I do that, I'm going to skip a few steps. The AI says that we should put a battery in it and check the fuel system, stuff like that. Well, what we're going to do first is we're going to skip to one of the last steps that it mentions, and that's to turn the engine over, pull the plugs, and replace all the plug wires. But before we do all that, we want to make sure this engine turns. So we're going to skip down to pulling the plugs, so we can have a look inside the cylinders and see what type of shape those are in. Take a look at the plugs, see if they're rusted, see if any water comes out of the cylinders, because if it does, well, then we got a problem. So let's get on to pulling the plugs out of this thing. Well, it's fairly carboned up, but there's no mechanical damage. You know what? I think I'm going to get some tape. Say to turn it over by hand, so let's try to do that. We're going to start with trying to turn it with the alternator. We need a 15/16 for that. And, oh, we're just slipping the belt. That's not going to do it. Okay, let's move down to the crank. I think that's a 5/8 bolt on that. Oh, that's a little tight in here. And we're just tightening the bolt. It's not turning, and the fan's kind of in our way, so let's go ask the AI what we should do. Okay, we've asked it the question. I said I cannot turn the engine over by hand on the 1980 Monte Carlo, and the fan is in the way. Let's see what it comes up with. It's thinking, still thinking. Oh, there. See what it says. Okay, disconnect the battery. Well, we never reconnected that before working on any part. Remove the fan shroud. The car has a fan shroud. You may need to remove it first to access the fan. Okay, remove the fan. The fan is typically attached to the water pump pulley with bolts or a retaining clip. Okay, try turning the engine over by hand with the fan removed. You should have better access to the engine. All right, well, let's go do that. Well, we got our fan off, so let's still can't turn the engine over. Let's see what it has to say now. If you have tried to turn the engine over by hand, but on your 1980 Monte Carlo and it still will not move, it is likely there is a more serious issue that requires further diagnosis and repair. Here are a few possible causes and solution. Seized engine. Yeah, I'd say that's quite possible. If the engine has been sitting for a long time without being properly stored, it's possible that rust or corrosion has developed inside the engine, causing it to seize up. In this case, the engine may need to be rebuilt or replaced. Broken or damaged internal components. All right, incorrect engine timing. Check and adjust the engine timing, may be resolved. Okay, what else? Hydraulic lock. Well, let's see how we fix a seized engine. How to free a seized engine. For penetrating oil, apply a liberal amount of penetrating oil to the engine cylinders through spark plug holes. Allow the oil to sit for several hours or even overnight to allow it to penetrate the engine and loosen any rust or corrosion. All right. Remove all the spark plugs, reduce compression, sure. Turn the engine manually using a breaker bar and a socket on the crankshaft bolt or a crankshaft pulley to attempt to turn the engine over manually. If the engine will not turn over, try gently tapping the end of the breaker bar with a rubber mallet to help break loose any rust or corrosion inside the engine. Apply heat. Use a heat gun or propane torch to heat up the engine block around the cylinders. Careful not to overheat any components or ignite any fluids. That's interesting. Use a block of wood and a hammer. Well, I think this is talking about if we have heads off right now. All right, well, let's go try spraying some penetrating oil in there. So I've got penetrating oil in all the cylinders. I even dumped a little ATF down there as well because I've used it in the past, works well. Now, that being said, we're not exactly following the AI instructions, but we'll give it every advantage we can. Now, we're going to let that sit for a bit. In the meantime, I'm going to try to see if I can do something with this back tire. The valve stem's broken out of it. So I can see if I can unseat it, get another valve stem in there, see if it'll hold some air. So we'll let things sit and soak for a little bit and come back to it in a little while. Okay, I get that tire repaired back there, so it won't be leaking air anymore. Unfortunately, the other valve stem is broken on the other back tire, but I've let this sit for a while. Let's try this out. Oh! Oh! It's turning! Well, that's turning pretty good, actually. I think we've gone just about a full rotation. Let's see if it'll turn with the key. Okay, we got a battery in it. We got some jumper cables hooked up to another battery, just for the heck of it. Why not? Because why not? Let's see if it'll turn over. All right. Oh, music to my ears. Okay, let's get some plugs back in this thing and see what happens. All right, status update. Well, we got all the plugs back in. We got the ignition wires hooked up. I disconnected the fuel line to the fuel pump because when we turned it over before, it started pumping fuel. We don't want it spraying everywhere. We're pretty much at the point where the AI said we could try to start this thing. We haven't changed the fluid yet, but the oil yet, but we'll do that if we know this thing fires. We also don't have a carburetor, but we can still put some fuel down the throat of the intake. Not too much though, because it's essentially going to be running wide open throttle. So we just want it to fire and see if it'll even fire off. So let's dump a little gas down there, see what happens. This could go be really good or real bad. Of course. Give me a minute. Round 2. I don't think it'll do anything, but we'll see. Well, that sounds like the timing's off. We're going to have to look at that. Alright folks, getting cold, starting to get a little later, and the weather's not warm yet, and I'm getting tired and sore, but we're going to give one last ditch effort. I did find a Rochester that I had kicking around. It's not bolted on, it's not rebuilt, nothing like that. It's just sitting on top, but at least it gives us some sort of cover over top of the intake for some choke. And we're going to dump a little fuel down there. Well, let's see what happens. And by a little fuel, I mean a lot. Alright. Hopefully the batteries have enough juice. Let's give it a go. Wow. I'm a little shocked, but not completely, because it is a Chevy small block, but I'm not going to run it much more than that. I'm happy. It actually sounds pretty good, but I want to get that oil changed because I don't know what's in it. So I guess that's what we'll go get some parts from the parts store, get the oil changed, and oh, one more time. There you go. Have a nice big drink. See if you like that. Well, we got ourselves a running Monte Carlo. Next time we get it driving. Right on. So, if you enjoyed this video, please give me the thumbs up. Really appreciate it. Helps out a lot. And I guess on the next video, we're gonna get this thing driving. That's crazy. Like I just started working on it today. It was seasoned. It was locked up. There you go. Congratulations, Mr. AI. Well done. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome night or day.